Hello, I'm Ciona Rouse, and the film I selected today is Honeyland. What a gorgeous and stunning film, and so it was very easy to select it. I have many reasons for it, but I think the best way to sum it up is to say that I think of the film as a poem itself. The filmmakers created the right amount of silences. They presented the main subject Hadice with such tenderness. They helped us see the complexities without making anyone a villain, and I felt like they honored everything in the ways that they shot this gorgeous film and the time that they spent. They honored the earth, they honored Hadice's story, and they honor us as viewers of the film. And so I always say that the best response to a poem is a poem itself. And so that made it easy to want to choose this one to write. The poem that I've written is called Have the Honey. And in it, I address multiple yous. I imagine the speaker being Hadice, but sometimes the you she is addressing is her mother, sometimes it's the neighbor and the neighbor boy. Sometimes I picture it actually being me, that perhaps there's some wisdom that I can learn from this incredible beekeeping woman in Macedonia whom I'll never meet in person, very likely. I hope that as you listen, if you've seen the film or not, that there may be a moment where one of the yous will resonate and speak to you. Have the honey after Honeyland. You say you've become like a tree now. Let me swing from your hornbeam branches, wild and giggling, slicing the air in the arc of a sunset. We stare out the window and believe we have 1,000,000 days until midnight, don't we, Mum? And the Turkish children keep us awake with their buzzing about. Someone will always try to wring out the earth. We will always speak of welcoming spring. I sit silent with the neighbor boy next to the fire after his fuck yous to his father, watch the embers swarm over the heat between us. He never says, I wish you were my mother. I never say, I wish it too. There's so much I need to teach him, like the song to sing to the queen, a promise to take half the honey for me, always leave half the honey for her. Teach him to lean an ear toward the mouth of a tree and let it whisper an ancient gold language. Some days you bow to a calf you shepherded into this life. Some days you lift a turtle to keep it moving. Some days you stretch your fire toward the wolves and howl them back into the hills. You will wrestle with your neighbors, oil and sweat and dirt on your bare chests. But even then, when you have cotton candy, feed his daughter soft pink smiles. If they never give me 16 euro at market for my honey, I'll always ask. Only you know how close to the ledge you go to secure this life. Fan yourself with the train of a peacock, slide along the nape of a kitten tenderly. With that same hand and care, hold yourself lovely. Detangle your chestnut strands. Remember all the ways and reasons you've yelled out to your mother. One day she'll scream her silence back. For this, I learned to hug and nurse the Macedonian oak. If bees ever end on earth, he'll ask me maybe, how many more years will we survive? Just promise me you'll always have the honey and never find out.
Hi, my name is Tiana I picked the documentary film Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am. As a writer, I've always been drawn to Morrison's work. My favorite novel of all time is Sula. And Toni Morrison is a writer that I underline, I dog ear. I go back to her novels again and again. And I hadn't seen the documentary, so I thought this would be an amazing chance to watch the documentary, to encounter her work and her words in a more intimate way, to understand her autobiography, especially as I am engaging as a Black writer myself, trying to navigate the world, not only my interior world, but the publishing world. And Toni is definitely a model for me in so many various ways. And so I wanted to have an excuse to spend time just relishing in her amazing life and the gift that she gave all of us. So with that, I'm going to read my poem, Black Ekphrastic Fantastic, after Toni Morrison, The Pieces I Am. I, like Toni Morrison, am waking up at 5 a.m. before the sun, or beating the sun, as she says in the documentary. There is something still and sacred about this dark morning ritual, something I suspect Toni knows about its magic potency, as she rose in the bleak light before dawn and before her children stirred to write for 3 hours. And it's been 4 days since the inauguration of Joe Biden, where Amanda Gorman read her poem, heard round the world. Her poem titled The Hill We Climb. I saw an interview with Anderson Cooper on CNN where Gorman recited her mantra that she whispers to herself before she reads. She says, I am the daughter of Black writers. We are descended from freedom fighters who broke their chains and changed the world. They call me. I can't help but think of Toni Morrison again in her documentary, and how the opening credits begin with a woman reading a passage from Beloved saying, she is a friend of mine. She gathered me, man, the pieces I am. She gathered them and give them back to me in all the right order. I hear Toni and Amanda and Toni, and I hear them both ringing in me. They call me. She gathered them and give them back to me. They call me. She give them back to me. Amanda is a daughter of a single Black mother. I am the daughter of a single Black mother. Toni was a single Black mother. What a Black blessing. What a Black delight. What Black joy to be found in that kind of focused love. Toni says words have power. Toni cautions to decenter the white gaze in the work, which makes me think, who is listening to or reading this poem? If you're white, then am I your only Black friend? Am I the first Black girl you have ever dated? Have you touched a Black woman's hair without asking? Did you watch George Floyd die and then text some Black people you knew and ask if they were okay? And if you did, does that make you feel good? Have you ever asked your Black friends to let you know if you ever say anything fucked up? Have you answered yes to any of these questions? I'm afraid I'm always thinking about what white people think. Toni says she wanted to speak to Black people, eliminate the white gaze. I'm afraid I don't know how to do that. Sometimes when I read her work, I want to stop writing, but Toni reminds me love is, or it ain't. Then love ain't love at all. So I keep writing because I love writing, and I remember words have power. And I remember that Toni says to own what I know so we both know what it is to write. In the doc, Sonia Sanchez says, you read Toni and you cry. And you gotta laugh. If you don't laugh, you don't survive. Sonia also says, in order to survive, you need to reread Toni. Oprah says, through the depth of pain, she shows us how to love. They call me, she gather them and give them back to me. They call me, she gather them and give them back to me. Toni brought us Gail Jones, Lucille Clifton, Angela Davis. She brought us women at the center of these epic narratives. She brought us the drama and tragedy of everyday lives. How do you access Toni Morrison in a poem and a film? Her honeyed voice with a tinge of raspiness at the edge, her swaying sense of power like a moving stone statue, her command, her sense of self, her iconic silver dreads creating a corona of seasoned light, the light in her eyes when she won the Nobel Prize. And when she was asked why she won, she simply said, "I write well." W.J.T. Mitchell writes about ekphrastic fear, saying, "This is the moment of resistance or counter desire that occurs when we sense that the difference between the verbal and visual representation might collapse and the figurative, imaginary desire of ekphrasis might be realized literally and actually." Meaning, there is a moment in this poem where I fear that I will never capture the essential truth of Toni Morrison, even as she calls and gathers me. There is a fear that by breaking the fourth wall and talking to you, that I might find some way to end this poem, because I want to end with Song of Solomon and say, "And she was loved." Instead, I'll end with her hand, hoping to touch my hand, which is hoping to touch your hand. I'll end with her nudging and knowing. I'll end with getting up tomorrow in the darkness, knowing that she calls me, she gathers me, the pieces I am. Thank you so much to the Belcourt and to Allison for inviting me to read this poem.